so many people where they go wrong is they're busy doing a whole lot of stuff, and they feel like, man, I worked so hard today, but it isn't always necessarily the things that are going to take them to the top.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's putting out fires and doing these different things. And so Tim Grover had talked about how Kobe would tell him, a lot of people are always saying, man, I need to get better at time management. But Kobe said, no, what you need to get better at is focus management.
Oh, wow.
Time management, focus management. And so that was really convicting to me, kind of lit something off on the inside of me. It's like, yeah, that's something I definitely, I want to get better at, is focusing on the right things. Because a lot of days you do a lot of things, and then before you go to bed at night, you sit back and, okay, what did I really accomplish today?
Yeah.
Did I work on the right things and the things that matter?
Turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality. Welcome to the IncrediPaul podcast. And now, sharing his expertise, experience, and excellence with the world, here's your host, Paul Ferranbi.
I'm Paul Ferranbi. Welcome to the IncrediPaul podcast, where we learn how to become the best versions of ourselves by learning from each other. I have the honor of having the executive minister of a church with over 5,000 members, musician and songwriter, Daniel Blunt. That was just a brief info, but Daniel, how about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Oh, thanks, Paul, for having me on your podcast. It's a real honor to be here. And
Awesome.
yes, I'm an executive pastor at Church in the Rock here in St. Peter's, right outside of St. Louis. And I've been blessed to be a part of the team here now. I was thinking yesterday, Paul, I've been on staff since 2000. So
Awesome.
It's been a lot of years, but I sure love the church and being a part of the team. And
That's super cool. So 2000, so about 23 years. I'm sure in those 23 years, the church is changing a little bit since then and now. Is there anything you can think of, or like, what was it like just starting out on staff at the church?
Yeah, man, it was different. I come back from Texas. I had been down there in Bible school and came back, and I'm trying to remember. That was a long time ago, Paul. The staff, like you said, lots of things have changed over the years. I was laughing about this with Dad a couple of days ago. We used to have to wear ties, of course, every day.
Oh yeah.
Had the Dockers and the polo shirt back then. It was we did not have business casual or jeans and trucker hats and t-shirts and stuff like that. Lots of things have changed over the years.
Yeah, definitely lots of changes. That's super exciting. I know, like for my family, we started coming to Church on the Rock back in 98, towards the end of 1998.
Wow.
But yeah, so been a part of the church for a while, but as you probably know, like was there, family moved away, and then came back it's been like 4 years ago now. So I was excited to be back and see all the great stuff that's happening at Church on the Rock.
Oh man, we're glad to have you back. Now, Paul, is that an Iowa State pennant back there?
Yeah, it is. Good eye.
Well, see, you and I got that in common. I was born in Ames.
In Ames, awesome.
Yeah, so right there where you went to school. So that's
super
cool. Love the Cyclones. Yeah.
Yes, they're doing pretty well in basketball right now. So hopefully they can keep it up. But yeah, Ames, Iowa. For those of you people who may or may not are familiar with towns in Iowa, just 30 minutes north of Des Moines, Des Moines right off I-80. And yeah, I went to school there, studied chemical engineering, and you were born there, so we have that connection.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
My parents pastored there for a couple of years, and fun fact, Paul, I don't know if you know this, we got two couples in the church, I think, that one of the spouses went to Iowa State, and then the other spouse went to Iowa. It's really interesting. So we've had two couples like that in the past.
Really? Wow, you got a divided household.
Right. don't want to be around them on Saturdays when the game.
No, game
Yeah.
days, the Cyhawk trophy, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thinking of that, like just talking about sports, I know um I think you're obviously a Cyclone fan, but any other sports or activities outside of church that you're involved in just to do for fun?
Nah, I like watching the Cardinals. I like watching baseball
Mhm.
and the Lakers, of course. Big
Mhm.
Lakers fan,
Yeah,
big Kobe fan.
yeah.
But as far as I work out a lot with my dad. We do CrossFit, and that's kind of
Oh
fun.
wow.
So, but as far as being in any organized sports anymore, no, not since high school.
Yeah.
How about you, Paul? You do anything like that?
Not recently. I used to do some rec stuff. I was involved in a kickball league and dodgeball league a few years ago when I lived in Albuquerque.
I see.
But then when I moved to St. Louis, the job I had before, I was traveling a bunch, so I didn't have as much time to do that stuff. Like you said, diehard Cardinals fan. Last year was fun seeing Pools. It was race to 700.
That was great.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you get to make it out to any games last year?
I did. I got to go to a few, and
Yeah.
said it's really been cool. It was really cool to see Yachty and Wainwright and Pujols there all together again. It was good.
Yeah. That's super cool. Super cool. So I know you're on my podcast, but I know that you and your dad have a podcast as well for the dream team, as we call it, at Church on the Rock. So I think that kind of started while I was away, and I know I came back and saw what you guys were doing. I think really to pass down the culture, Church on the Rock. I think it's amazing. There's always a lot of cool stuff happening. Can you kind of talk through how that even came to be? Because I don't think there's a lot of churches that have a podcast for their volunteers. I know they have podcasts for members or stuff that talk about like their recent messages, but I think it's unique to have one for your volunteers.
Oh yeah. I think probably about 5 or 6 years ago, Paul, we just Apple has that quote. I think they say, where culture trumps strategy every time, right? Culture gets
Yes.
better every time. And I think we started realizing that we need to be better at passing down culture. In a big church,
Mhm.
wherever there or any organization that's big,
Mhm.
there begins to get distance from kind of the top of the organization to those that are further down.
Yeah.
And when you have that distance, a lot of times you have kind of a loss of meaning and
Mhm.
kind of this disconnect from the people at the bottom, from what really the values are, and kind of the things that matter at the top. They can kind of lose that, and so
Yeah.
Dad kind of brainstorms. He has a friend of his who was the head over Walt Disney World, Lee Cockrell, and
Wow.
he had actually talked about with Disney that he would do he would do a weekly newsletter that went out to all his team.
Yeah.
And he would do just like a little recording, so they could hear his voice and kind of
Yeah.
hear his heart, and just send it out back then. This was years ago.
Yeah.
So Dad thought, it'd be cool to do that, with like a monthly podcast where all of the dream team, we could
Yeah.
all be on the same page together. We could hear his heart, hear what God was kind of telling him, and really kind of be more connected to the culture. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it came to pass.
That's awesome. So just really passing on the culture and taking something that's like from Walt Disney and something that doesn't really have really anything with the church and bringing that into the church. Just like you were saying, like just with large organizations, I think a lot of businesses can learn from what is being done in the church as far as building community and building character and just the overall development.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I get a lot of great feedback from the team, that, boy, I really, I'm so glad Pastor hit on that this month, because now I know the why behind what we're doing, and sometimes, you'll as the pastor sometimes will say something and it'll go through 3 or 4 different people and kind of lose the tone, maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of the heart behind it. And so it's great to be able to really hear him and hear his heart through that podcast.
That's really cool. Really cool. And I know you said dad a couple times, just so people on the podcast are clear that your dad is the lead pastor for Church on the Rock, Pastor
Yeah.
David Blunt, phenomenal teacher, just dives deep into the word. I know that was one of the reasons my family first came to church when I was in elementary, no, even before elementary school. And then why I came back to the church as when I moved back to St. Louis, as far as just how practical and how he goes line by line in the word, and whether you've been a Christian for 40 years or you just became a Christian yesterday, he could really relate to everyone.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, Paul. This will be the 40 years, since Church on the Rock has been started. Him and my mom in a little library there in St. Peter's. And he's my hero, my mentor, and man, like you said, just the way he teaches the word, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, phenomenal. 40 years.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal just
Right.
in itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything like even in the early years or even the last few years that kind of sticks out to you. I know I'm sure there's a lot to choose from, but is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh man, I just I'm trying to think. Because when we started the church, I was like I want to say I was 3 or 4, I'm turning 44. So but no, I think just thankful, like you said, 40 years for an organization, thankful to all the people of God's faithfulness, all the people, like you can't do something like that without there have been a whole lot of people that invested their time, their prayer, their sacrifice, and their effort to make it happen, and man, there's so many examples over the years of just people who believed in the vision, got behind it. God spoke to them, and they gave their all, and look at all the people that they've touched because of that. And so I think when I think about 40 years, think about that and my parents' faithfulness, and it's really, really cool.
That's awesome. I'm sure you feel blessed to have pastor as your dad, as you call him, your mentor, your coach, someone you can really look up to. Is there anything that kind of stood out to you when you were growing up, or maybe when you first came on staff, that kind of he instilled in you or has stuck with you? I'm sure there's a lot to choose from, but I don't know if anything that resonates with you right now.
I think first off, his stability over the years, just kind of I guess you could call it grit. Angela Duckworth has that book called Grit that the staff has had to read here. And when I think of my dad, I think I think of that, just day in, day out, being there. Funny, we were talking about Lee Cockrell from Disney World. All the staff, we were in a webinar yesterday with him. And he was talking about 2 things that he looked for in every employee. And number 1 was attitude, and the second was reliability. And he said I could train them on all the other stuff, but those 2 things, kind of these inherent values that he looked for. And I think that with my dad, that's really stuck out to me. That and then number 2, his relationship with God, having a quiet time every day. That was something he instilled with me. Just really ingrained in me and my brother. I'll always remember that. Having your daily quiet time with the Lord, your devotional time, you don't miss it. Awesome. And then lastly is like he had a lot of opportunities over the years to kind of like go places and travel places and do these different things, but he did put his family first. And I saw a picture of Patrick Mahomes. He was like walking out, the quarterback for the Chiefs this last week. He had a t-shirt on. I thought it was really dope. It said number 1. It said number 1 God, number 2 family, and then number 3 football. And I think when I think about my dad, I would say that's what he did: God, family, and then church. And he always knew that we were kind of his first congregation. You always hear about pastors' kids that go crazy, because they didn't really have that stable home life. And he always made sure he he sacrificed a lot of opportunities he had so that we would stay on track.
That's phenomenal. That's yeah. I'm speechless. That's so cool. So cool. So I can kind of like, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, I can kind of see a guitar right behind you. I know that
Yeah.
you lead worship for Church on the Rock a lot of times, along with your duties as a pastor, your family man as well. Kind of, and I know you just had an album that came out as well. Where you talk about that and how like the whole process of even like deciding that you wanted to put out an album.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I had put out a couple of albums years ago before, like right as my kids were being born. It was my last one, and then kids came, and we kind of took a break on doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But, yeah, my father-in-law, he has a studio, so I'm blessed with that recording studio here in town.
Awesome.
And I had a goal, kind of a dream of some of my favorite music is like, some of like the R&B music from the 60s, like, Motown, Muscle Shoals type records,
Yeah.
those ones from the early 60s. And so I kind of wanted to take some songs of faith and kind of take it through that filter, and so my father-in-law put together a great team of guys, even some musicians that used to work with like Aretha Franklin was on some of her records in the early days, and
Wow.
like even some old country guys like George Jones and the Allman Brothers, some of these musicians, and
Yeah.
he just did a fantastic job, kind of like putting that sound together. It's like I've had several people listen to it. They say, "Man, that sounds old." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what
That's what you're going
that's
for.
what we're going for." That was kind of the vision. That's my favorite music, and that's what I pretty much like to listen to. And so yeah, that we did that, and I'm really happy with what the team did. They did fantastic. They did a great job.
It's so cool, so cool. So talk a little more about the album. Like, what's it called? Like, do you have any favorite songs on there?
Man, that's a good question. The name of the album is called Prophecy,
Prophecy.
and yeah, it's you can get it on Spotify, you can get it on iTunes, I guess, Amazon Music, all those things.
Awesome.
And but boy, favorite song on there. Boy,
I know I put you on the spot.
that's good. That's good. I think we were blessed to have the McCrary sisters on there, and they
Yeah.
are just kind of like, I've claimed them as my aunts. Like they're kind of like, gospel royalty. They've been on everybody's stuff. Man, I'm trying to think of it, like all from like Bob Dylan to like Elvis to like
Wow.
Carrie Underwood and stuff. And I love the songs that they're on a whole lot. They're on this one. It's called "Set My Soul on Fire." I think that's the first track on there.
Yeah.
I really like that one. And then
Yeah.
a great singer here in town who's been a part of Inspire actually a couple times, Joanna Sarinko.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sing this song on there with me called "No One Like You," and that's another one too. That's those two are probably my favorite ones. But she did a fantastic job. She's so talented, and yeah, it just sound. I like the way those two sound.
That's so cool. So what's it like? Because my musical talents just exist on humming and singing off key. So what's it like to go through the songwriting process?
Yeah. It's man, it's different for everybody. I think, you could talk to all the different songwriters and they all kind of got their own little system or process.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's I kind of get like a melody first, and
Okay.
then like the lyrics will kind of come,
Okay.
as a result of something I'm going through or something I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
All the songs on this record, of course, are all faith-based, so
Yeah.
they're all flowing out of my own personal like walk or relationship
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
Lord. And so, but yeah, so I think I started getting a lot of these actually started in 2020 and then continued through 2021. And so we put them together and then I presented them to my father-in-law, and he brought in just a fantastic team. Tommy Sims, this big player, the guy is a genius. He's worked with Stevie Wonder. He's worked with.
Man.
He was Bruce Springsteen's band leader. I mean, Sheryl Crow, everything you go to, and he's just an amazing songwriter and just an amazing person in his own right. So just fantastic. He kind of came in as well with Willie Bartell, who's an awesome drummer. I claim him as my brother too. He's just awesome, and he's playing all over the world right now. But they both came in and listened to the songs then as well with the rest of the band, a guy named Simeon, a fantastic keyboard player, and we all kind of did the first recording, kind of the live, kind of rough, if you would, the drums, bass, keys, all right there. Went through all the songs, over a 2 or 3 day period.
Yeah.
Then you kind of come in and start, in with the overdubs, where you kind of start laying stuff and doing back and things. So yeah, but sorry, that was a long explanation, Paul.
No, that's good. I think the more details, the better.
Geek out on that stuff. So
that's really cool. Because I know you kind of said like the 60s R&B is kind of the music that you listen to now, is kind of the foundation for this. Is that, do you have a favorite artist from that time frame, or just overall favorite artist?
That's good. I think like I love like those artists back then, like Wilson Pickett, Otis Redding, Aretha's stuff from down there in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. That those were fantastic. Etta James did some great work back then. I also like Delaney and Bonnie too. They were some of the songs on here were really influenced by them. And then today there's a label out in New York even called Daptone Records, and they put out some amazing sounding music that sounds like that. They influenced me a lot. There's a guy named Leaf Fields who's just fantastic. He sings with them, and Sharon Jones, she's passed away now, but some of her records were just fantastic. But yeah, that's a rabbit hole right there too. But I like it all, but I really love that sound of the 60s back then.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I feel like, especially with this album, maybe overall, you got to work with and meet a lot of who's who, and in the music world, just in the world of faith or business and stuff in general. Do you have any encounters, whether it was in the music world or going to a conference, like someone like famous that you didn't really expect meeting, and it was like a memorable encounter?
Oh man.
Or maybe you expected to meet them and something memorable happened.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a good one, Paul. Oh man. My father-in-law, he is really just a legend and an amazing songwriter in the Christian music world, and he really introduced me to some great people that I never would have been able to know on my own, like I was talking about, like we talked about Tommy Sims. And I'm just, when I'm around those guys, I'm just like, I'm asking them stories, and just trying to be a sponge and taking notes and listening. Like, I think, like, even with Tommy, I probably, bless his heart, he have to put up with me, but I was always asking him, like, what are you listening to? And he'd tell me what records, and I'm immediately like downloading them.
Like as he's talking.
I just want to learn from those guys, and get better.
Yeah. Talking about getting better in general, I know that's what this podcast is all about: leadership and personal growth. And I know, especially for you do a lot of it for us on the podcast that you do it with your dad. I don't know if there's any books or podcasts or anything you've come across recently, that anything that you're like currently trying to grow in or work on.
Yeah, man. Wow. That's good, Paul. Yes, there is a lot, Dad has this, the word for our year has been focus. He's for the church here for 2023. he felt like, we need to get better at being focused on
Yeah.
the right things. And so he's given a lot of teachings about that in staff. And so there was a book that he recommended to staff. Tim Grover, I don't know if you heard, he wrote a book called Relentless. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's personal trainer.
Oh,
and
wow.
he was also Kobe and Dwayne Wade's personal trainer.
Wow.
He's got a podcast today, and lots of YouTube videos and some really cool personal growth stuff you could do on his website. He's got like a mastermind group. Just a word of warning, he does cuss a lot, but but you chew the meat and spit out the bones, right? Really, really amazing guy. But and he has a new book out. I guess not new anymore, but it's about a year old. It's called Winning. And Dad had a lot of the staff read it. And there's a whole part in there about focus. And he talks about how that Kobe was a master of focus and focusing on the right things, and how that, so many people, where they go wrong is they're busy doing a whole lot of stuff, and they feel like, man, I worked so hard today, but it isn't always necessarily the things that are going to take them to the top.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's putting out fires and doing these different things. And so Tim Grover had talked about how Kobe would tell him, a lot of people are always saying, man, I need to get better at time management. But Kobe said, no, what you need to get better at is focus management.
Oh, wow.
Time management, focus management. And so that was really convicting to me, kind of lit something off on the inside of me. It's like, yeah, that's something I definitely, I want to get better at, is focusing on the right things. Because a lot of days, you do a lot of things, and then before you go to bed at night, you sit back and okay, what did I really accomplish today? Did I work on the right things and the things that matter? But that's one book. And then Dad's a big Jim Collins fan, Paul, Good to Great, and those books. And so one of the books that he has been recommending, again, Dad was, I think he even talked about it in the marketplace ministry, was this one, I think it's called Beyond Entrepreneurship. It's like 2.0 or something like that. And there's a section in there that this really stuck out. Dad and I've kind of been talking about this lately, but where he's talking about, like, in Good to Great, for those of you that read it, that he talks about how the best companies in the world, they usually have these leaders. They're called level 5 leaders, and the level 5 leaders kind of have all the same type of characteristics, and they may differ in some areas, but in the end, it boils down to like these two things that are kind of congruent across all these leaders. And I'd heard this before in Good to Great, but I never heard it the way he explained it in Beyond Entrepreneurship. And number one is, he said, first off, they're humble, right? They're humble, and really, and what he means by that, is they're open, they're lifelong learners, right? They never think, hey, I know it all, I got it all. I got a Fortune 500 company, I don't need to push anymore. The Brooklyn Nets coach, or one of their old coaches, Kenny Atkinson, he would just say, I'm humble and I'm curious, right? It's like, I'm going to keep seeking, going to keep searching, keep trying to get better, So, in that book, Jim Collins says, well, level 5 leaders are humble. But then the other thing is he says, is that they are basically like, have a strength of will, right?
Yeah.
And so that second one, that I always thought, Paul, that meant like they don't give up or something like that, or like they're just tough. But he goes on to explain in that book that like they have the strength of will not to be pulled off what their mission is or what their values are.
Wow.
So they have this like strength of will where like no one can kind of mold them into something they're not, or like distract them and pull them away from the thing that they should be doing. And that would get, when he explained it, that was like, wow, that's powerful, because we all, with all the distractions we have today, social media and everything going on, we all have these things tugging at us, and then you've always got those voices in your life. Well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do it the way this guy does it, or maybe I should be and act the way this person does, you know. But those level 5 leaders, they're secure in themselves and what they feel they're called to do, you know, and they're not going to move off it. So yeah, those are just a couple things we've been kind of kicking around a little bit and talking about. So
No, that's really powerful, and that definitely goes along with the focus you were just saying. That's the word for the year.
yeah, right.
Exactly. That's amazing, and like what you said about the humility aspects. I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about humility or humble, they think of someone that's just off in the corner, not interacting with anyone. Like it's almost like thinking less of themselves. But I feel like it was John Maxwell, I don't know, someone that said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, is thinking of yourself less. So
Oh,
really,
wow.
yeah. So just being others focused and putting others first, and put what is your vision and your drive first, instead of always thinking about yourself and becoming conceited or even arrogant.
Wow, that's good. Well, I like that. I'm gonna use that. I'll use that in our next podcast. That's good.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
So I know, like, as an executive pastor, you probably have a lot of responsibilities, but kind of, can you walk us through like a typical day, or if there is a typical day that you have, like what does your day or week look like as far as you're preparing for services or different things that are happening in the church?
Well, yeah, you know, as far on the executive pastor side of things,
Yeah.
one of the main things that I'm over right now is culture, like what you talk about, and that's not just so much culture even for the dream team, but then also for our paid staff here, you know. And so one of the things that I'm blessed to be able to do is to help out with staff training, passing down culture, passing down our values, make sure that we're clear on those things.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think you can include under my responsibilities is putting out a lot of fires.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of fires, as you can imagine, you know. I get to help with that. And then also just overarching, like whenever we got like kind of new, I guess you would say, pushes our thrust, ministry thrust that pastor or dad thinks that we should go. I get to head those up and spearhead those up and kind of move the team all in that direction. So I'm blessed. It's really not the same every day, you know.
Yeah.
It changes up all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful. I'm thankful and blessed. So yeah.
So how, like, yeah, how do you stay centered on the things that matter most to you? 'Cause I know, like, we talked about the music and your responsibilities as a pastor, and there's all these competing priorities. How are you able to stay centered?
What? That's a good one. I think, man, you know, I know I refer to my dad a lot. So sorry about that, but
No,
that
that's not a bad thing. That's, you already said he was your mentor, your
yeah,
hero.
he's been an impact on, you know, he's been
Yeah.
talking a lot about Paul lately, like eternity, you know. And I think that's one way that I keep myself centered, you know, as I think years down, as I years down the road, one day I know I'm going to be looking back over my life, and what do I want my kids to say about me?
Yes.
What do I want my wife Tamara to say about me?
Yes.
You know, was he a man of faith? Was, you know, was he reliable? You know,
Yeah.
easy to work with, or oh man, I'm glad he's gone. You know, yeah. But I think those, as I look back and I think of that, you know, I think that's what kind of keeps me centered on making sure that I'm working on the right things, you know, and yeah, I think that, and then my faith, you know, you know, God's word, staying in the word every day, it keeps me centered, you know, it keeps me on track. It's my manual for living, right?
Yes.
It keeps everything in perspective. And again, Paul, you're kind of doing good. You're tying this all into focus again. You know, it helps keep me focused on the right thing.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we have a title for this podcast. It's probably gonna be Focus.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, that's really cool. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that about yourself or things you're passionate about that you want to share?
Oh man, I don't think so. No, again, I just thank you for having me on, Paul. It's an honor, and you're doing a great job. And yeah, so I I got a question for you, Paul.
Yeah, yeah, go for it. And
So, so
before you ask it, thank you for being on the podcast. It's an honor to have you.
thanks. Well, hey, I love like your energy and your enthusiasm. For people that don't know, I mean, I think Paul, you serve in like I don't know how many departments, probably like 5 or 6 different departments here at church. And every time I see you, you're never like down. You got a big smile on your face, like you pump me up. Like I'm trying to think, like I see you on videos. You're shooting cameras. I
Yeah,
mean, you're doing small groups.
yeah.
It's great because every time like I talk to department heads, everybody's like, "Man, Paul is just awesome." Like they got a great thing to say about you. But let me ask you, with
Yeah.
everything you got going on, because you are a busy guy, how do you stay focused on the right things? How do you like and continue to have this energy and enthusiasm and excitement? What's your
Yeah,
secret?
yeah, no, that's a really good question. I would say it's like kind of the things you mentioned, that making sure I'm having my quiet time in the morning, because there are the days that I don't do it or I miss it or I'm in a hurry. Those are the days that I'm like, oh man, this is not this day did not start out great. And I have to recenter myself. And it's also just being in the moment as well. I think just realizing that, and I think I read some books about focusing the moment and not worrying too much about the past or the
Wow.
future, because a lot of times, like early on, I'm still pretty young, but I would talk about like I want to do this in the future, I want to do this in 5 years, and I get so caught up in, okay, I'm going to do all of this stuff, and then when I look to my present, I'm like, this doesn't look that great, type of thing. So it's just living in the moment, and like even when I'm busy or have a lot of stuff going on, it's just definitely my calendar sets me up. And I've been more intentional lately, since the last year, about looking at my calendar, scheduling things, because like just even like 2 years ago, there'd be times where I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna get all this stuff done, type thing. And yeah, I know you talked about this doing small groups and serving in the church, and then when I was traveling a lot, and then I started in IncrediPaul. I remember like the first time Mark asked me about doing small groups, I prayed about it, and I told Mark about this later. I don't know if he ever told you that I was secretly hoping that God would say no.
Oh no.
I did not recruit anyone for my small group. I told God, I'm like, if you want me to do it, the people will show up. And like up until I think 3 days before small group started up, no one had signed up. I was like, that's the sign. God said I don't have to do it. And then like one person signed up, another person signed up. Like the end of, I had like 6 people signed up. I was like, all right, God, this is what you want me to do. And just walk in it. But I don't know if I've answered your question, but I think it's just staying grounded in my faith, and also understanding what is the most important thing to me. Because I know I got married last year, and before the most important thing to me was my health, my job, my faith, but my health and job. And then now transitioning into, okay, I have a wife now, so I have to make sure she's my priority. And you can ask her, I don't always do the best at it. I'm a work in progress, but I think it's just not giving up, and just failing forward, because failure is not, I tell people this all the time, failure is not a bad thing, and it's not something who you are. It's something that happens to you, and you can always learn from your failures.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, you're doing a great job, man, and you inspire me. Inspire
Thank
a
you.
lot. Yeah.
Thanks. That means a lot. It means a lot. Well, I want to make sure people know how to find you and connect with you, and then talk about your album as well, Prophecy, how they can listen to that.
Yeah, they can find it on Spotify or iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music. It's all
Awesome.
across there. Yeah, and we have some CDs that are going to be coming here at church, some hard copies,
Awesome.
like the old school. And but yeah, and I'm here at church all the time, and they can feel free to email me on the website. I got an Instagram, Daniel M. Blunt, and yeah, that's how you contact me.
Awesome. So it's been an honor having you, Daniel, on the podcast. And for all of you all listening, you heard from Daniel's story with his mentor, his hero, Pastor David Blunt, and all the stuff he's been doing through his life, through his music, impacting people, driving the culture for Church on the Rock. And just a quick plug for those of you who are looking for a church home. Church on the Rock is on YouTube, it's on Instagram Live, if you have an app, wherever you want to, if you want to get plugged in, go at mycotr and just learn more about this great culture. But just continuing on, I'm glad everyone out there was able to listen to this podcast, learn from Daniel's story as we are on this journey of becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Thank you for listening to the IncrediPaul podcast with Paul Ferranbi. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.